So last two meetings, we covered equations, linear equations, and inequalities. So for the most part, these are your algebra topics. For Cartesian plane, it's a little bit of algebra, it's some parts geometry, nagagamit din siya doon. And nagagamit din natin siya sa trigonometry for the unit circle. Okay? So Cartesian plane, right, from René Descartes, ito yung when you graph x and y, so for graphing itself. And then in its own, it also has a separate list of topics na kailangan mo din magkabisado, honestly, ng mga formulas. So let's start with some basic concepts. So when we say Cartesian plane, by definition, it is the graphical representation of the Cartesian product or cross product with real numbers. Meaning, if we have, so R squared are real numbers, R by R, or X and Y coordinates, right? Where X is an element of the real number subset and Y is also a real number. So this is a requirement. In other words, if you have an imaginary number, hindi siya plottable in a Cartesian plane, which is this, right? So you have your y-axis, which is the vertical line, and then you have the x-axis, which is the horizontal line. So the x-axis has x-axis. The Cartesian plane has four quadrants. We have quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Quadrant 1, where both x and y are positive numbers. For quadrant 2, you have negative x but positive y since it is above the x-axis. For the third quadrant, you have negative and negative. And for the fourth quadrant, you have positive x-axis and negative x-axis. So familiarity with this, with your Cartesian plane is good then, because sometimes you have questions that are actually pretty simple, such as in which quadrant are both coordinates negative, quadrant 3. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, so refresher on all of the basics would be helpful for you as well. So other parts that you need to, or other terms we need to review, we also have what we call 0, 0 over here. So 0, 0 is referred to as the origin, coordinates 0, 0. And in our xy coordinate of any given point, x is referred to as the abscissa, while y is referred to as the coordinate number. So for example, if you have a question that asks in the coordinates 1, negative 3, which is the abscissa, it's 1. Okay? Everything good so far? Hindi man mabilis.
Okay.
So next set of terms that we need to recap, we have the slope, right, which is y over x. We have midpoint. And then we have the distance formula. So for distance formula, if you are given two coordinates, let's say we have 0, 5 and 2, negative 4, what is the distance between the two? So if we are given two coordinates, we can solve for this as well using the distance formula. So let's start with slope first. So for slope, for any 2 points on the Cartesian plane, let's say we have points P and X. So if we have P and X, point P and Q, point P and point Q, of course, they will have their own coordinates. So let's call them X1 and Y1 to refer to set 1. And then we have X2 and Y2 to refer to set or pair 2. So for slope, In math, we refer to this as the small letter m. M stands for slope. And the formula for this is change in y over change in x. Alternatively, we write this as y2 minus y1 and x2 minus x1. Okay. Provided that x is not equal to x. Kasi if ganyan, walang slope. Okay? That would mean it is a horizontal line. I mean, vertical line. So let's say, for example, you have same x, right? Let's say, kunwari, you have 2, 0 and 2, 3. Same x, same x. Anong mangyayari dyan? You have y2 is 3 minus 0 over 2 minus 2. Of course, this will be 3 over 0, which is not possible. You will have a line that goes like this. So it's a completely vertical line. In other words, if both of your x's in your coordinate pairs is the same, it is a completely vertical line. Alternatively, if the y is the same for your two numbers, for example, we have -4, -2, and 0, -2. So formula, we have y over x, -4, no, y, -2, -2 minus -2 over x, -4 minus 0, we have 0 over -4 equals 0. In other words, no slope. So a no slope line is a flat line or a horizontal line. Okay? So yeah, sometimes referred to din siya as no slope kapag 100% horizontal. Okay? Next, we have, ayan, so if we have different slopes, this one, right, is horizontal line, yung no slope, horizontal line. The pink one, the completely vertical line, is referred to as undefined. And then we have two other types of slope. We have the positive and the negative slope. So for a positive slope, it is going up starting from the left. And then for a negative slope, it is going down, starting from the left. So these are your, these are the different types of slopes. Next, we have midpoint. So when we say midpoint, we are referring to midpoint na tayo. So when we are talking about midpoint, we are talking about the middle point between two points. So yeah, exactly as the name suggests. So let's say we have P and Q are, this would be 2, 2, and then this would be 8, 8, 5. Okay, so we have points 2, 2, and 8, 5. Now, we are looking for the middle, or yeah, midway point between these two points. Kailangan natin sila i-graph. Okay, very good. There we go. So we are looking for the midpoint between the two, which would be somewhere around here, right? So to solve for midpoint, our formula, midpoint is big M, so small m slope, big M is midpoint. The formula for this one is just x1 plus x2 over 2. And then we have for y, y1 plus y2 over 2. In other words, you just average the points of x and points of x, and then you average the points of y. Right? So, of course, if you have graphing paper, you can just try to, what do you call this? Estimate it, but it doesn't always work out since we have decimal places, fractions, etc., etc. So the best way to do that, to look for the midpoint of 2 points, is to just solve using our midpoint formula. So let's try that. We have 2 plus 8 over 2 and 2 plus 5 over 2. So we have 10 over 2 is 5. And then we have 7 over 2. Right? So the midpoint here is 5, 7 over 2. So by default, we use fraction form. So unless specified or your question is written in decimal point form, then you use decimal point. But any other time, the default is always to use the fraction form. Everything clear so far? Do we have any questions, clarifications? Mabilis ba?
Ay, hindi naman po.
So now we go to the distance formula. So first we discussed slope, which is what is by how much are the points increasing or decreasing, or is there no slope, or is it? Next is midpoint, when we are looking for the midway between two Cartesian plane coordinates. And then next we have the distance formula. So for distance, we just use the small d. And distance formula, we are looking for the distance between the shortest distance between 2 points. So the formula for this one is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, and then we squared. So earlier we had the points 8, 5, I think. And I'll just make 2 new points. So let's say we have 8, 5, and 4, 2. Okay? So we just plug in your values. So this is P is your set 1, Q is your set 2. So you just have X. So we have x4 minus 8 squared plus 2 minus 5 squared. Okay? 4 minus 8 minus 4 minus 8 is 4. Squared is 16. 2 minus 5 is negative 3. Squared is 9, which is 25. Right? This 2 is 25. So square root of 25 is 5. Tama na? So the distance between the two given points is 5 units. So yeah, we just use 5 units. Since hindi naman clear kung anong unit of measurement yung binigay sa atin. Next, we have equations of lines. So you have 6 different types. Now, depending on what we are looking for, you can use any of these. But some of them depende sa isa-solve mo. You'll have to use a specific form or rewrite an equation using a specific form. Pero, yeah. Sige, let's just not try to get ahead of this. So we have 6 types. Let me write them down. So we have, number 1 is the 2-point form. Next, we have the point slope form. Third, we have the slope intercept form. And then we have the intercept form. So I'll give you practice questions for this one. Next, we have the standard form. And then lastly, we have the general form. So sometimes also you will have questions in your exam that will ask you rewrite the following equation in the point slope form, rewrite the following equation in the slope intercept form. So you just have to solve for your x, your y, your intercepts, and your slope, depending on what form you need to rewrite it as. Now, for the 2-point form, we have y, the actual y in your formula, minus y1, which would be your coordinate, is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1 times x minus x1. So let's try this one. If we have our points, so we have P and Q, we have 8, 5, and 4, 2. How this will go is we just follow, you plug in your values. You have y minus y1 is 5 is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Wait lang, ba't nilagay ko negative 5? 2 minus 5 and then 4 minus 8 times x minus x1. Okay? So we are looking for the equation of the formula provided the two coordinate points in the line. So we just solve for this one. We have y minus 5 is equal to negative 3 over negative 4 times x minus 8, right? And then we have 2 minus 5. So cancel na natin to, negative over negative. So we have y minus 5 is equal to 3 times x minus 8 over 4. And then we'll just group this together. And then using, we'll be going to transpose 4 over here. So we have 4 times y minus 5 is equal to 3 times x minus 8. Nasusundan?
Opo.
So we have 4y minus 20 is equal to 3x minus 24. So transpose everything again. Transpose 3x to the left-hand side. And then we transpose this to the right-hand side. So we have 3x, negative 3x. X yung mga una, diba? Negative 3x plus 4y is equal to negative 4 or negative 3x plus 4y plus 4 is equal to 0. Okay, so that would be our formula. For our next or equation, next one, we have the point slope form. Point slope form is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Now, if you remember, for m, we use a different color. For m, we have change in y over change in x. So using the same set of points, so dapat we will arrive in the same equation, diba? So we have 2 minus 5 over 4 minus 8. So same thing, negative 3 over negative 4. Cancel negative, we have 3/4. This is our m. So we have y minus y1 is 5 is equal to 3/4. X minus x1 is 8. So we transpose, have 4. So we have 4 times y minus 5 is equal to 3 times x minus 8. Now, if you notice, we arrive at the same equation, right? So if we continue solving this, that means we should also get this equation. So just to show that regardless of the type of form that you use to solve for the equation of your line, you will always arrive at the same one, except for the six forms, iba-iba kasi yung focus niya. For example, if you just write it like this, okay, um, like for example, from here, you just want to isolate M. You will just have transpose 5 for here. We'll have Y is equal to 3/4 X times 3/4 times negative 8 is negative 6 minus 6 plus 5. So magiging Y is equal to 3/4 X minus 1. Okay, so it's the same equation. But if we have it in the point slope form, like this, you can easily spot the slope, right? But in the 2-point form, where you have y minus y1, so it's going to be y minus 5 is equal to 3/4 x minus 8. This should be the final form na actually. Makikita mo yung points, which are 5 and 8. Right here, we have 5, 8. So makikita mo agad yung first coordinate just by looking at the equation or the form of the equation. Okay? But regardless, kapag simplify mo yung different forms mo, you will always arrive at the same equation. Okay? Any questions? We're good? Everything clear? You're still there?
Opo.
So let's continue going to the next form. Kuha naman no, how to use the forms.
Opo.
Let's go to the next one. We have the slope-intercept form, which is y is equal to mx plus b. Ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na if you isolate m. And then for intercept form, this is x over a plus y over b is equal to 1. We have the standard form, yung kanina na sinolve natin, where we have ax plus by is equal to c. So, binara ko na siya. And then we have general form, which is ax plus by plus c is equal to 0. Okay? So, let's try to do some practice using bigyan kita ng 2 types of questions. So, number 1, you have points 1, 5, and -2, -4. Solve for or find the slope-intercept form. And then number 2, solve for its 2-point form. Okay, so just like we demoed earlier. So this is number 1. And then number 2, you have pen and paper, right? Given a line passes through 1/2, 1/3. Wait lang. Do you still remember x-intercept and y-intercept?
Opo.
Right? So for x-intercept, you set y to 0. Solve for the general form and then set y to 0. And then for y-intercept, set x to 0. In other words, solve for x over y by setting the alternating. So since you still remember, for number 2, what is the equation of a line with slope -3 and y-intercept is 5? Write your answer in slope-intercept. Okay? When you're ready.
Teacher, ano nga po gagawin dun sa 2?
Commute pala ako. So given that the slope is -3 and your y-intercept is 5, find the equation of the line and write it in slope-intercept.
Okay po. Okay na po.
We have is equal to -3. Ayan. Okay. So let's move on to the next topic. So next we have parallel and perpendicular lines on the x-plane. So if we have, let's say this is for Cartesian plane, I think if this is your Cartesian plane, if we have two lines that have the same slope, right? That would look like this. They have the same slope, so they are parallel. So that means that M1 is equal to M2. And then if we have two lines that are perpendicular, we have M3, M4. Okay. So for parallel lines, we have slope 1 is equal to slope 2. But for perpendicular lines, we have slope 1 times slope 2 is equal to -1. So they are inverses of each other. More like actually they are negative reciprocals. Or you have slope 1 is equal to the negative reciprocal of slope 2. Okay? So for example, we have the equation 3x plus 4y is equal to 6. What is the slope of a line parallel to it? And what is the slope of a line perpendicular to it? So our first step here would be to write this in slope-intercept form, right? So pwede yun. Or you can solve for slope, but we can't really solve for the slope since we don't have the coordinates. So dito na natin gagamit yung rewriting your equations into different forms and then so for this is in standard form. So we just need to rewrite it into slope-intercept form. Ang gagawin natin is we have to rewrite this into general form first. Okay? So we have 3x plus 4y minus 6 is equal to 0, where this is your A, this is your B, and then this is your C. And to get the slope of this one, we just take negative A over B. This is, yeah, kapag general form yung equation natin, this is how you solve for slope. So we have negative 3 over 4. So this is the slope of a line parallel to it. And the slope of a line perpendicular to it would be the negative reciprocal of this, which would be 4 over 3 positive. Nakuha ba?
Ah,
Next, we have graphing. So for graphing, you just need to plot any 2 points, right? And then draw a line, pretty much. Now, when your graph is, if y is equal to b in a point where you have 0b, it means that it is a horizontal line by default, okay? And then if x is equal to a, where have a 0, then it is a vertical line. So for a horizontal line, slope is 0. For a vertical line, slope is undefined since it is the vertical line. Now, ang pinakamadali dito is you just need to get your equation, rewrite your equation into slope-intercept form. Kasi when you have your slope-intercept form, diba, this is in y and x plus b, where b is the y-intercept, right? Yeah, tama. This would be your y-intercept. So this would be your slope. So let's say we have the equation y is equal to 1/2 x minus 2. Your slope is 1/2. And your first point using the y-intercept, you have 0, -2. Okay, using your y-intercept. When x is 0, this is the value of 2. I mean of y, just -2. So in your graph, we just plot this point, 0, -2 over here. Slope is rise over run. So our rise is 1. Our run is 2. So you just have to go up 1 unit and then run 2 units positive. This would be your next point. Same thing again. From the second point, rise 1 unit, run 2 units. This would be your next point, making your graph like this. Ako ha. So ito yung pinaka madali. Just rewrite your equation into slope-intercept form, and then you can graph it. Okay? So next we have system of linear equations. So for a system of linear equations, this is a linear system of 2 or more linear equations involving the same variable. So we have 3 different types of system. Let me write this down. So systems of linear equations. We have type 1 is parallel lines. You have type 2 intersecting lines. And then type 3 overlapping or coinciding. Or coincident lines. Nag-iba minsan yung tawag. But coincident, pag sinabi na coincident lines, it means that all of their points are equal. So to find out if two systems are parallel, intersecting, or coinciding, by the way, when you graph this parallel like this, intersecting would be something like this. And then for coinciding, dahil pareho sila ng points, ikapatong silang dalawa. Okay? So going back, so you have to look at 2 things. You have to look at the slope, and then you have to look at the y-intercept. So for parallel lines, your slopes are equal, but your y-intercepts are not. This is also referred to as inconsistent type of system. Inconsistent type of system. For intersecting, your slopes are not the same, but they have common points. So it can go either way. Okay, as long as their slopes are not the same, most likely they will intersect somewhere along the line. So it's both possible for B1 to be, for intercepts to be the same, pero it will still work out if intercept 1 is not the same for intercept 2. So what this means is that your system is consistent, independent. They're kind of just going in their own way, and then they will intersect somewhere. Like they will have a common point. But yeah, that's it. Next, we have the coinciding or overlapping, where your slope has to be the same and your intercepts, y-intercepts have to be the same as well. So this means that you have an infinite set of ordered pairs. So lahat na x1, y1 mo, etc., they are exactly the same. And this is a type of system that we refer to as consistent dependent. So based on the graph din naman, it should be easier to use this as a mnemonic device to remember. So if you have parallel lines, they are inconsistent because they never touch. Two parallel lines will never touch. Okay, they have the same slope. They will travel forever, never meeting. But for intersecting, they're just going in their own way. And in the nature of your Cartesian plane, consistent independent, they will meet at one point, and then for coinciding overlapping, they meet at every single point. So your slope and y-intercept should be the same, and it's referred to as consistent dependent. Now, when you have equations like this, for example, so paano natin siya apply? So let's say we have y is equal to 1/3 x plus 2. And then you have 3y minus 5 is equal to x. You just have to first check their slope, right? This one is already in the slope-intercept form, so it's easy to identify. M is 1/3. For this one, we just have to rewrite this. So you have negative x plus 3y minus 5 is equal to 0. Again, when you have general form, when your equation is in general form, your slope is solved using a over b. I'll check that out. Pwede rin naman. I-rewrite mo na lang din sa into slope intercept. Mas, para hindi ka na mag-solve. Pero it's negative a over b. You have 3y is equal to x plus 5. Divide both sides by 3. You get y is 1/3 x plus 5 over 3. Right? So, parang na silang twice intercept part. So, for the second equation, m is also 1/3. So, it's either parallel or coinciding. And if we check our y-intercept for number 1, your y-intercept is 2. For number 2, your y-intercept is 5 over 3. They are not equal. So, this means that these two lines are parallel. Nasundan, or should we do another example?
Answer pa po.
Nasundan. So again, if naka-general form siya, you can just use m is equal to negative a over b, where you have, yung ginawa ko kanina, negative x plus 3y minus 5 is equal to 0. This is your a, this is your b, and this is your c. Okay, next topic. Time pa ba tayo? Time pa tayo. Oops. So far we covered slope, midpoint, distance formula. We also discussed the 6 types of equation forms. We also discussed parallel and perpendicular lines, how to graph lines, and systems of linear equations. Now, when we are solving for systems of equations, we have what we call a solution set. So a solution set, this applies for intersecting lines mostly. But if, for example, your solution is confined or null, it would mean that your lines are either parallel or coinciding. But for the most part, we use solution set for intersecting lines. In other words, if we have two lines, subtract, they intersect. Kasi for intersecting line, this is for linear equations lang. They will intersect here and we need to solve this. This is referred to as solution set. Okay? So we have different methods for systems of equations. We can use graphing, we can use substitution, or elimination. Now for graphing, this is the easiest one to read, but siya din yung pinaka-ma-effort, especially if you don't have graphing paper. Kasi for graphing, you literally just have to read your graph. So let's say, for example, here, this point is 1/2 negative 1/2. That's your solution set. You just have to read the graph. So let's just do examples for substitution, and then we'll do elimination. Have substitution method, and then we have elimination. Okay. So first, for the substitution method, let's say we have the two equations. X plus y is 4, and x minus y is equal to 2. So for substitution method, you want to isolate the value of either x or y for one of the equations and then substitute it to the first one. So let's isolate for the second equation. We have x is equal to 2 plus y. Now, going back to the nature or properties of our equations, if you have a plus b is equal to c, right? If we have a plus b is equal to c, that would mean that a is equal to c minus b. May dito siya galing. So, yeah. And basically, that's just transposing. Now, from here, we use this method, and we use this equation to substitute the value. Kasi if you have two unknown variables, hindi mo masasolve yung values. So you want to isolate just one unknown variable so you can solve for it. So plugging in 2 plus y, we have 2 plus y as x plus y is equal to 4. Now we can solve for y. So this is 2 plus 2y is equal to 4. 2y is equal to 4 minus 2. So y is equal to 2 over 2, y is equal to 1. Okay? Now that we know the value of y, we can just plug it in again. Pasok mo lang siya ulit. We have x is equal to 2 plus y. X is 3. So our solution set is 3, 1. Nasundan?
Opo.
Now let's try elimination method. So for this one, this is my preferred method lang din because it's fastest. So you just simply write your equation. So we have x plus y is equal to 4. We have x minus y is equal to 2. And then just add them. 2x, this is 0, is equal to 6. X is 3. And then plug in that value. We have 3 minus y is equal to 2. Negative y is equal to negative 1. Y is 1. Solution set 3, 1. Clear?
Wait lang po.
Medyo magaling.
Hmm,
Or isa pa.
Isa pa po.
So let's try another example for elimination method. I'll just write it in the bit. Okay. So let's say we have the equation. Solve for the solution set of 2x plus y is equal to 1. 8x plus 3y is equal to negative 3. Now, I want you to pay attention here. If you add this here, that they will stack up. But for y and negative y, they will cancel. That's why it works very easily for this one, right? Kasi by adding both equations to each other, one variable will be canceled, isolating just x. Then makuha mo na agad yung value. Now for this one, if we take a look at it, if I add 2x plus 8x, that's 10x. y plus 3y is 4y. It's just gonna give me 10x plus 4y is equal to negative 2. That's not gonna work because I still have two unknown variables. So when we have something like this, what we do is we want one or the other to cancel out the other one. So if we use this one, I'm gonna manipulate this one kasi mas maliit yung number. I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 3 para it gives me negative 3y. Okay? So, kailangan mo din ng konting strategy pagdating sa elimination method. Pero pag may mastery ka over this is the fastest one for systems of equations. So, this will give me, negative 6x minus 3y is equal to 1. Equal to negative 3. I have to multiply both sides para equal pa rin siya. Nasundan so far?
Po.
So we have negative 6x minus 3y is equal to negative 3. Pwede ka na siyang i-add. So literally, you just stack both equations on top of each other, or yeah, and then add them. So 8x minus 6x is 2x. 3y minus 3y is 0. Negative 3 is negative 6. And then you get 2x is equal to negative 6. X is equal to negative 3. Using this one, you just plug it into your original equation. So our original equation is 2x plus y is equal to 1. So if x is negative 3, we have 2 times negative 3 plus y is equal to 1. Negative 6 plus y is equal to 1. Y is equal to 1 plus 6 or 7. So our solution set is negative 3, 7. Kuha?
Opo.
Okay. Ayan. So, next meeting, we're going to start with science para medyo maka-move on na rin tayo. And, well, not so much move on, pero para we can cover other